Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Early Edge UFC 315 preview show brought to you by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas, molded by it. And I can't wait to get into this card. The UFC is back in Montreal, and two championships are on the line. Belal Muhammad taking on Della Maddalena, and Manon Fiorot taking on Valentina Shevchenko. Gold up for grabs. I got to break down this card with you guys. And let's bring in the stars of the show to do so. Joined by two of my favorites to talk fights with. It's Josh Nagel, assistant managing editor of SportsLine, great mind in UFC and in boxing, and friend of the show, Gippers Picks. If you don't know him by now, if you're an avid SportsLine member, I should say, you definitely know him in the Discord, in the chat, always talking UFC and more. And I love being here, chopping up the fights with you guys. Josh, back in Canada for the first time in a while. How are we feeling about this card?
Yeah, I like it, Danny. And like you mentioned, the last card, wasn't at least my best effort with the picks. And it's funny because I think we talked about how it was a compelling card from a matchup standpoint, not necessarily from the betting. And I had a difficult go of it. And I guess, Alex Volkanovski proved us all wrong on some front. But with this one, same deal. I think it's a really compelling card. Real significant betting edges are a little bit difficult to come by. But I feel like with this one, I'm going to just kind of try to keep it simple and see if we can eke out some winners.
I feel similarly. Yeah, shout out Volkanovski. He proved us all wrong, right? That chin was still there. He got knocked down, came back, and put on a fantastic performance. That was 314. We're here on 315 Gippers. And like he said, Josh mentioned, it seems like a kind of tricky card to me. I agree with him. I'm looking for some safe spots, playing some cautiously. And I always like your betting style, much different than both of ours. So what are you looking forward to on this fight? Maybe a favorite fight you have circled?
Yeah, I got a couple of fights. I mean, actually, a couple of my favorite plays on this card are actually overs. I hate to say it, but it's like an under in football. And but I mean, and there's like Josh said, there's a bunch of 50-50 fights that the lines might not say they're 50-50, but they're 50-50 in my eyes, and they could definitely go either way. But it's definitely going to be a banger of a card, I think.
Totally agree. They got to show out for Montreal. There's only 11 fights on the card, so a little underwhelming in terms of the lineup and the volume, but I think the matchups will deliver. I see you guys in the comments. Baba loving the UFC shows. Giovanni Duran, he's fired up. And Jeff says he's buying unlimited amounts of poutine to watch UFC in Montreal. Jeff is all over it. So there you have it. Japan already firing away his picks in the comments. Fire away what you guys got. We want to see what you're on. If you have any questions, we'll bring them up live on the show. And let's start breaking them down, guys. We got to begin in the preliminary card. And this is the first fight of the night, the curtain jerker, as they say. Gippers, you're up first. Who are you liking in the first one?
Well, it looks like I'm going right against Japan on this one, I guess. I like Bekzat Almakhan on the money line at a minus 148. I mean, personally, I think he's going to be better everywhere, but there's also debate on that too. I think he's going to have more power. I think he's going to be the better striker. And his grappling doesn't look that bad either. Granted, we don't have a lot to base it off of, getting ragdolled by Umar, but even before that, I watched a couple of his fights and I thought his grappling looked pretty solid, and I think he's a solid, prospect here. I think he's got potential to be a top 15 prospect eventually, and I think he's going to get it done here, and I like him on the money line.
Bekzat Almakhan. I mean, he's coming off a fight, like you mentioned, against Umar Nurmagomedov, bantamweight title contender, on short notice in his debut. He was a massive underdog. I think Umar was like a minus 2,000 favorite. And he dropped Umar inside the first minute of the first round. Watching that back, he's got heavy hands, man. He clipped him with a right hook to the temple. And Umar, being Umar, is a very savvy guy, immediately recovered and just dominated with wrestling. But right after that moment, he said, I'm done striking with you. I'm just going to grapple you. And I think a lot of people are considering Katona's toughness, Josh, in this spot. He's kind of that UFC journeyman who can bring, take you to deep waters and fight tough, but he may get dropped in this one and be fighting hurt. That's how I see it. But I do think it could be a competitive bout. How do you see this one playing out, Josh?
Yeah, I will say this. It's a tough one. Probably stay away from me, but I'll just say this. In the past, I've been guilty of underestimating Brad Katona, I think, more than anything, because he just sort of doesn't look like he should be any good, right? He's in his second stint with the UFC, but he's come along pretty strong. But your point to Bescat, like, I don't feel like I've seen enough of him. I wondered back in the day, like, okay, why are they sort of making him the sacrificial lamb for Umar here where they're clearly trying to fast track. But obviously, as you mentioned, that fight didn't go near as easy as the odds kind of suggest. So when you look at their overall profile, I believe Bescat's probably got the edge, but I'm probably just going to be a little too gun shy to fire that one.
Fair enough, man. I see it. But to Gipper's point, in that fight, even getting 10-8'd by Umar in the second round, there was a moment where he bucked his hips off and escaped top mount when Umar was raining punches down, got back to his feet. He reclaimed full guard a couple times. So he's not a zero on the mat. He's facing a guy named Nurmagomedov. What do you expect to happen? So let's see how it goes against Katona if he mixes it in. I think it's an interesting fight to kick off the card. And Gippers going with Bekzat Almakhan, the Kazakh kickboxer. Okay, next fight we have to talk about in prelims features a Canadian fighter, and this is a nasty matchup here. Josh, you're going up next. I think this one could be a banger. Who do you got?
Right, so we're talking about Mike Malott here, and I believe Gippers on the other side of me on this one. There's been quite a bit of heat behind this fight, and I find it interesting because I didn't he opened I think around minus 225 against Radke. I didn't have any interest in him then, but there's been such a steam on the underdog, and I realized there's something behind that. Radke's a dangerous guy, and there's been also some stuff that I didn't particularly like at the press conference. Like if you saw yesterday, it was just bizarre. These Canadian reporters, I mean, they weren't interviewing Radke as much as like taunting him, or what do you even think when 20,000 Canadians are screaming at you or whatever? Like it just gave me some bad vibes on that. But I'm going overall with Malott from a talent standpoint. Danny, I know he's the guy who caught both our eyes because he has an interesting career trajectory going from a guy who veered from competitive MMA early on to become, a pretty prolific coach, and then just decided the juices were flowing. He wanted to get back into it again, and immediately he looked like a really skilled guy, and maybe he could fast track, into contendership. But then we know, the last second loss to Neil Magny, he really lost some steam. I know the fan base is giving him the fraud check business and all that. And I also thought he looked a little bit tentative in his prior fight against Giles. But at the same time, to me, when it comes right down to it, especially at the reduced price, again, Radke's dangerous, but I think Malott's the second best opponent he's faced. The first one being, Carlos Prates, who took him out and won. And when it comes right down to it, I feel like, talent-wise, Malott has an edge. I feel stylistically it's a good one for him because I feel like he does better when Radke's someone who will come straight forward. Malott's got some great counter. I think he might he even himself described it as a bull versus matador. And he does better, I believe, in sort of the matador role. Let someone come to him and land the counters and whatnot. There's a lot of heat behind this, and I think Malott's got something to prove. Where now he doesn't necessarily just want to fall into the role as it looks like, where he's essentially the Canadian card mascot, right? Where they roll him out, he fires everyone up, and he's like the most skilled. They put him on the featured prelim to get everyone going. I think he wants to prove that he's still capable of being a top 15 guy. Overall, again, I think Radke is a problem, but I think this is a step up for him. I expect Malott to get there.
And I like some of the points you bring up about how Malott has been, criticized in the media, right? He loses last second to Neil Magny, gets choked out, gasses out. His cardio is a problem. And the next fight, he fights very carefully. Body kicks from the outside against Trevin Giles, a step down, still a dangerous opponent. So now another dangerous opponent in front of him, bring in the heavy forward pressure. Radke is not afraid of a nasty fight. And we know Malott can take one to give one, too. He's got big counter hooks, that check hook, body kicks. So Gippers, I'm going to ask you to hold off on your retort because you got some to talk about Radke, and we'll get there in a moment. I'm going to round it out for you guys with my prelim pick, and I'm going with Modestas Bukauskas on the money line at minus 108. Japan in the comments, right on cue, is with me. Love to see that, brother. I like Bukauskas for a few reasons in this matchup. He's facing Jan Kutelaba, a guy that is nicknamed the Hulk and will come out in the press conference fully painted green. Bodysuit in green. So he's going to jack the crowd up. Very exciting fighter. And he puts on all-action fights. He's looking to put on damage. But I think he's going to be behind the 8 ball in this fight. He's going to be at a major speed disadvantage. Bukauskas, since re-entering the UFC, has looked like a much improved fighter. And I really like his lateral movement, his speed on the outside, his ability to kick to all levels. He's very athletic and quick for a light heavyweight. For a 205er, I think he's going to outspeed a lot of these guys. And he had an interesting matchup against Marcin Prachniow in his last fight, a guy that could kind of mirror him stylistically in a lot of ways, and he was able to defeat him. He's come back with a mean streak, too, a guy that was criticized for going to decision too often, playing it careful and close, point fighting. Now he's putting guys away in the UFC. So after he had to leave for a couple years, after Khalil Roundtree side-stomped his knee into a brutal injury, He came back, recovered, recalibrated, and looks much better fighter. So I think he gets it done against Cutelaba. Just quicker to the target here. Cutelaba is certainly dangerous, but I think Bukauskas is defensively sound enough now to not get hit by the big shot and win this fight. All right, guys, that's my prelims pick. We're going to talk more about that fight a little later on, But we got to move on to our favorite prop bets. We got a lot to cover, so let's keep it rolling, guys. And this is also on the prelims here. Interesting fight, Gippers, you have to talk about. I'm going to be honest, I don't want to touch this one with a 10-foot pole, so I can't wait to hear your take. Tell me what you got for your favorite prop bet.
Well, my favorite prop bet is going to be Daniel Santos versus Yang Lee to fight to go the distance at a plus 130. And what really got me towards one, I like this to go to the decision anyways. And Santos is moving up in weight. So I think that's going to take away some of his power. But he's a very scrappy fighter. And when I take a fight like this to go the distance, I look for somebody that's going to fight for my money. And Santos is going to fight for my money. And he's not one of these guys that's going to quit on you at any point. And but then Lee will more than likely be the better grappler and the better wrestler. But Santos is the type, when he's on the ground underneath, he's the type to kind of just accept it and not fight up as much as others might. So I think that right there could take up a lot of a lot of these rounds, and I really like this fight to go the distance.
Very interesting. So you rate the toughness of Santos, a guy like you said, I love that, that'll fight for my money. Always want to back guys with that gritty edge, right? And then you see stylistically the bottom game could keep him stuck on bottom, let the clock run out. You look at the Korean Tiger, Jung Young Lee, too. First two fights in the UFC, split decision to Yizha and decision with Blake Builder. So 2 of his 3 have gone the distance. That ended before Haider Emil threw a 50-punch combination at him in his last fight. I don't see that happening in this one. So you like this one going the distance at plus 130. Good plus odds on the show. Always like that. All right, Josh, you already talked about this fighter, but you got a prop on him as well. So tell me more about Mike Malott, how he gets it done.
Sure. So I just feel like, again, there's some heat on this fight. I'm looking forward to it. In fact, to me, it's one of the more anticipated matchups on this card. And it's cool if you're not going to buy the pay-per-view or whatever. It should be a pretty compelling ending to the prelims. But the bottom line is I'm just leaning into it. I do think this one ends in a finish either way. There's been some back and forth dialogue there, and I really do feel like Malott's coming in there a little more motivated. In fact, it's kind of funny. We see, like, for instance, what just happened to Bo Nickel last week and sort of happened to Malott as well. I felt like maybe he was, getting a little high on his own supply, so to speak, like sort of believing his own hype when at first he came in with quite a bit of humility. And I think, for instance, like, remember his UFC debut, he knocked out Mickey Gall in about 90 seconds over. Rapke is better than Gall, no doubt, but I don't think significantly so. I just think Malott wants to get back on the radar of the UFC and say, hey, I'm a guy you can count on for not only solid performances, but deservedly to be back in contention. So I think he wants to make a statement with this and not just try to eke out a decision. So I think it's going to be a bit of a firefight. And I figure if I'm backing Malott, that's a pretty sweet price to see him get a finish.
Yeah, I like it, man. I think both guys are going to be wearing damage. I could see both bloodied up and someone, the ref just having to jump in saying, no more. This is getting too nasty. And hopefully that's Malott at plus 290. Not bad at all. Okay, my favorite prop is also a fight going inside the distance. Gippers, big overs guy, so he's going to go the distance. Josh liking Malott a lot, taking him by knockout. I love Jasmine Jasudavicius this weekend. I think she absolutely dominates, and I'm taking her to finish the fight at plus 175. She knocks out Jessica Andrade or submits her, and we're cashing almost 2-to-1 odds here. Jasudavicius is a relentless grappler. Her tenacity is unmatched, and she's really just dominating flyweight competition that can't hang with her on the ground now. Her forward pressure can break you, and she sets up her grappling with her striking now. Her boxing is much improved. She's still a bit hittable, but it doesn't matter because she just walks through damage, puts you on the ground, and makes it an absolute nightmare. We've seen Andrade fold to really skilled grapplers multiple times in the UFC. Tatiana Suarez, first-round guillotine. Valentina Shevchenko finished her with mounted elbows from crucifix position. Rear naked choke to Erin Blanchfield. These are the skilled grapplers that she can't hang with. Honestly, I put Jasudavicius' wrestling right up there with her. So I think you're going to see a lot of ground and pound early. She's going to beat her up. And Andrade might accept the early way out and just turn, give up the rear naked choke, or Jasudavicius jumps her signature Darce choke. You can see her finding one of those as well. Jasudavicius, however she wants, KO or sub, big plus money there. And I'll talk more about her later on in the show. Talking plus money, it's time to put some fighters together and get some parlays going. And the parlay man himself with his overs, Gippers Picks, putting a few together. Tell me about your favorite parlay on this UFC 315 card.
Well, my favorite parlay is going to be Aldo over 2.5. Well, you guys can see it there, and the reason why I like Aldo against Zahabi over 2.5 rounds is this fight's going to stay standing all 3 rounds, and Aldo is a great boxer. He's probably one of the best pure boxers in the UFC. But on the other side, Zahabi probably has the best boxing defense in the UFC. So they're going to kind of cancel each other out, even though I do like Aldo to get the win. I really like this fight to stay standing for 3 rounds, and I like it to go the distance. And then on to Valentino versus Maddalena and Fiorot. This is going to be a 5-round championship fight. I think it gets off a little bit slow, and if Valentina has success, it's going to be through the grappling and her leg kicks and counter strikes, and almost the same for Maddalena and Fiorot, other than the possibility of no takedowns. She's a great counter striker. She's got really good leg kicks also. I just don't think Fiorot's power is as high as some people think. I mean, who has she knocked out? Tabitha Ricci, who took a short notice fight against her, and I don't see Valentina finishing the fight either. So this is one of my favorite overs. And then we got Belal Muhammad and Jack Della Maddalena, and I took over 2.5 rounds for a reason on this one. I do think it goes long, but I took only over 2.5 rounds because if it gets to the last stage of this parlay, then you have the opportunity to hedge this if you would like, because the last leg is like a minus 425. So doing the other side is like a plus 350, I believe. And I like this one to go all 5 rounds. Also, I don't think Maddalena knocks him out. I think he may knock him down once, but I think Belal is going to be heavy wrestling. As long as he comes in with a smart game plan, he should be wrestling him for 5 rounds. And he's got 5 rounds of cardio that we all know, and we've all seen it. So those are the three of my favorite legs on overs.
There you go. Put them together plus 102. And it's interesting to put the last leg as a heavy favorite. He's going an alternate over 2.5 rounds because that's set at 4.5. And that way you can hedge on a big plus money if the first 2 come through. So I like it. Stylistic angles, why they'll go over. Tough fighters, why they'll go over. This is Gippers Picks style of betting. And I'm not mad at it at all. Okay, Josh, you got the long shot. You're a long shot guy. This is what you do. Tell us about the spiciest parlay of the week.
Yeah, guys. So my theory of parlays, I like to turn them into sort of the lottery scratch-off tickets or whatever. Say, why not? To me, the general theory of the parlay, like a lot of people enjoys the idea of betting a little to win a lot. So I just usually slap a few together with at least 1 plus money in there. So that's why I have Zahabi, who is my underdog pick at plus 170. He's the one who's going to push the odds through the roof there. And then I'm just trying to, again, nothing super fancy on this, but relatively solid, just, picking money line winners. I agree on the prelims. I like Bukauskas quite a bit for the arguments you went into a while back. I think he's a real solid play. And one of my favorite main card plays is Maddalena and Fiorot. I just, sure we'll get to this a little later on, but I just feel like, sort of a coming of age moment for her. I feel like she gets it done, and why bother with the method of victory, or why not? So I just feel, so far as Zahabi comes in for us as an underdog, I like the other 2 like moderate chalks, and that's a pretty sweet payout. So why not give it a shot?
Plus 820. I mean, I'm on board with you for Bukauskas. Like you said, we'll talk more about the co-main event. Fiorot as a favorite against the dominant champion Valentina. Maybe there's something to be said about that. And Zahabi, the big underdog shot. Hey, not that big of an underdog. Jose Aldo is not even a minus 200 favorite. So Odds makers thinking that's going to be a good fight too. I think you're more than live for this plus 820 parlay, and I like it very much. Okay, guys, I'm going to do my style of parlay. You guys know I've loved the spread bets as of late. Shop around for these. Make sure you have them available on your books. Depending on the book, I've actually had some people message me and say, hey, I requested this bet, that my book make the bet. And they might even offer it to you if they don't have it. So give that a shot. But I'm going with 3 spreads, and they're all in fights that I think will likely go the distance and will also be very competitive. What the spreads come down to is how the judges score the fight, right? The plus 3.5 there for Jose Aldo would imply that if he wins or loses a unanimous 29-28, that you still cover that by the hook, right? And so I'm going to go with him in that first fight, plus 3.5 against Ayman Zahabi. Gippers alluded to the stylistic matchup, right? I think really high-level boxing affair, minimal grappling. The guys that have neutralized Jose Aldo as of late have been Merab Dvalishvili, doing Merab things, right? Mario Batista, a guy that won a split decision and was criticized for his win, just doing nothing, right? Just holding him there. So these are the guys that are really canceling out Jose. I think this should be a really good 29-28 affair. And either way it goes, I think we hit that plus 3.5 leg. I'm going with Manon Fiorot plus 9.5. This is a 5-round fight, so I would need her to just pick up 1 round as well. If we get a unanimous 49-46, do the math, that adds up to 9, again, covering by the hook. I think she can absolutely win a round against Valentina here. High-level kickboxing affair, really good takedown defense, a fight that I also expect to go long and expect to be close. And finally, the underdog, the challenger, Jack Della Maddalena, can get a decent line on him at plus 9.5. Bilal style, I think, just invites a fighter to potentially fight him close, right? Relentless pressure grappling, improved boxing from Bilal, and just that tenacity, nonstop work rate wins him fights. But Jack Della has a decided boxing advantage. He's got cracking power from both stances. And Gipper said he could potentially see a knockdown. I agree with that. So if Jack Della finds a big punch, maybe busts him open, right? You're seeing some blood on Bilal. He's going to steal that round, regardless of wrestling or control, I believe. So 9.5 is solid there. 3 legs, plus 125, and a safety spread parlay is what I'll call it. And appreciate you guys liking them, firing away in the comments. All right, guys, we did our parlays. We did our props. Hey, man, if you want to put in some parlays, you might want to sweat free, right, and do it without any risk to you whatsoever. Well, you can do that with BetMGM and get their odds boost token. Get it, MMA boost this Saturday on BetMGM. BetMGM account holders will receive this MMA odds boost token on Saturday. Use the token, add a wager made up entirely of just MMA wagers to your bet slip, and activate the token. If you win your wager, you receive extra winnings. So it's a boost, actually. It's not a no sweat. I misread that. It's an odds token boost, and you can supercharge that parlay. Imagine doing this with Josh's plus 820 parlay with your token boost. That's going to be massive. Awesome promo there. More plus money on the show, guys. We have underdogs to get into. We talked about Mike Malott a lot, but Gippers, you got to give the case for Charles Radke. What say you?
Well, I'm on Charles Radke as my underdog. He's definitely going to be. I mean, I think he's better on the feet. I think he's got way more power, and I think the one thing that people aren't like giving him enough credit for is I think he's got some sneaky, solid grappling also. And I also feel like he's going to be able to defend the takedowns. And then if he can't defend them, I feel like he's going to fight to get back up. And then we've already seen Mallet get tired in the 3rd round, and he let a Neil Magny knock him out who never gets any knockouts. I mean, would have Radke got knocked out by Magny? I doubt it, but this isn't UFC math, I guess. But
yeah,
I just feel like he's got the power advantage. He's got the advantage on the feet, and I don't think his grappling is getting enough credit. So at a plus 160. I figured it was worth a shot. I mean, I see now it's down to like a plus 140, so it looks like I got halfway decent value on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you did your job. You beat the line there. And I agree. I think it could be a nasty fight. His pressure is solid, right? I mean, Radke taking a knee to the liver from Carlos Prates, nothing to scoff at, right? Very forgivable loss. Mallet looks to have improved his gas tank issues. Yeah, Neil Magny finished him, but I that's more down to he couldn't figure out his cardio than he doesn't have a chin, right? So just, some of the woes when you're learning as an MMA fighter. I'm not going to hold burn him too hard for that, but people certainly did for a long time. He's got to show out for Canada. Radke's coming into enemy territory very happily. The guy loves to play the villain, and it's going to have a lot of hype on the fight. So Gippers on Radke plus money, Josh on Mallet, and also Mallet knockout. And I'm staying far away and expecting violence. And I'm just going to sit back, enjoy my cocktail, and watch this one play out. All right, guys. Next underdog up is one that we talked about a little bit before. Josh, go ahead and talk about this Aldo Zahabi fight.
Yeah, so Zahabi caught my eye, Danny. I think mostly just based on the price point. I think he's won 5 in a row, and I think he's looked decent, but not spectacular. He hasn't exactly announced himself as a true prospect or contender or whatnot. And the recent winning streak has been hardly against a murderer's row of opponents. Although last time he did get a win over Pedro Munoz, who's sort of become the default gatekeeper of the division or whatnot. I will say Jose Aldo's looked a lot better in his return from the semi-retirement than I would have imagined. Remember, it seemed like he was done with the UFC and he went off and did some boxing and whatnot. Actually had decent success in the other disciplines he tried out. But he's come back. He's definitely not washed by any means, but at the same time, does he need to be laying minus 2 to 210 here? It just seems a little thick. I feel like Zahabi's got some pop. What I like about him is, and people don't realize this, I didn't until I looked it up. He's only, I think, about a year or so younger than Aldo, so it's not like there's a huge youth advantage, but there is a less mileage advantage for him. And I just like, he's got some spring, his athleticism, he's got some pretty good pop to his strikes. And I just feel like, provided he can avoid getting, damaged by the famous, Aldo leg kicks and getting hunted down, I just feel like if he can sort of win on volume, sort of do the stick and move thing and avoid danger. And when you factor in, and you don't necessarily want to factor in, hometown, bias into the equation, but it's just worth noting, he's going to have the crowd behind him. Does that the way they overreact, to the hometown guys' accomplishments in the ring? Maybe a very close rounds lean his way just based on the hometown advantage. And so with all that, figure that's a price I just couldn't resist. It's worth taking a shot on.
That's an extremely fair argument, especially you can't underrate the ooh-ahs of the crowd and how they sway these very human judges who judge emotionally, it seems like, a lot of the time. The point you brought up, and I'll go to you next, Gippers, is the leg kicks. That's the only reason I stayed away from betting the Aldo side, is because Aldo hasn't implemented those legendary leg kicks as much as of late. If I knew he's going to be hammering the calves, I love Aldo in this fight. But Zahabi's got very intelligent footwork, and he's a very smart boxer. So I think it's going to be a tight fight, 29-28 all the way in my view. Gippers, what do you want to say?
And then the other thing I'll add on to this, even though I lean Aldo, is do we really know how old he is? Because what I've heard is that there's no birth certificate. He's just claiming that he's 38 years old. That's what I heard. I don't know how true it is, but so is he really 38? Is he 45? I don't even know if we really know his age.
That's incredible. Wow. Mystery box with Jose Aldo here. Yeah, 38. But Josh pointed out, Zahabi, 37. So this is older guys who are still extremely sharp strikers, and age, Father Time, has not quite caught up yet. Hopefully it never does, because this is a great matchup. All right, guys, my dog of the week. I'm going to get flack for this, but I think the odds are off. I'm going with Alexa Grasso at plus 210. And really, this is a play on the price tag. Natalia Silva, her opponent, is an extremely talented kickboxer. She's got the youth advantage. She's got the speed advantage. She mixes up her kicks and her punches really well. She's swift on the outside. She's got good Brazilian jiu-jitsu as well. I highly rate Natalia Silva, and she dominated Jessica Andrade, just danced on her, was never really in too much danger. But I think Grasso's pressure is a lot more intelligent than Jessica Andrade. Andrade has become sort of this like mindless bull almost, right? And Silva was just the matador, just leading her wherever she wanted, having her way. I think that Mexican pressure style boxing that Grasso brings can be a little bit more effective in this fight. You look at the spreads, which I often do. Grasso plus 3.5, which would imply that she wins one round, is minus 140. Yet the money line is plus 210. So odds makers, kind of citing that it could be a close fight, could be 29-28 here. And if it's 1-1 going into the third, I kind of like Grasso's championship experience. She's coming off a 1-1-1 trilogy against Valentina Shevchenko. You fight a computer 3 times, the computer's going to learn you. You know what I mean? I think she sharpened her skills, and I think she'll get a lot of criticism for her last performance where she lost the belt. But she was so afraid of the takedown threat that it really stifled her striking. She just looked awkward out there. She didn't know what to do next. And she got figured out. She got downloaded by the computer and had an awkward performance. I think that looks a lot different in this one. I think she comes out aggressive against Silva. And if she can track down that movement and get her punches off and land those combinations, I think Grasso is live here. And I love you, Richard Pierre. He loves the Grasso pick too. Let's go. Love to see some support for Alexa Grasso in this big spot. All right, guys, we're headed right on up this card, and it's time for the co-main event of the evening. Maddalena and Shevchenko taking on Manon Fiorot. Josh, I'll let you lead it off. Fiorot, the French title challenger, looking to become the first French champion in UFC history. What do you think of her?
Yeah, I just think that she gets it done. But it's interesting, Danny, you mentioned, because Gipper and I had a brief talk before the show on this, and it's kind of difficult to just step in there and fade Shevchenko when you look at what a legendary and iconic career. And I was even incorrect on some of my perceptions, like of her record. I thought she had lost a couple of times. I went back and entire last 12 fights. There's a draw, but there's only one defeat in there. And maybe what stuck in my mind is I thought I had seen some decline for sure, and like her aggression level and durability and things like that. I thought, oh, maybe she's on a downhill slide. But let's face it, we just saw plenty of examples, such as Alex Volkanovski, when the old guard stood up, to the new challenger, and they showed that they weren't done quite yet. That could easily happen here, and out of principle, Shevchenko is an underdog. It doesn't bother me at all. Like, I can see the argument, but with Manon Fiorot, it's like, it's one of those deals. I just feel like she's run through the competition. I didn't expect her to just completely walk through Erin Blanchfield, and she looked pretty good against Rose Namajunas the prior fight. And so I'm just starting to feel like, her physicality and her overall skill set, it sort of feels like her date with Destiny is just here. I feel like she's a title winner waiting to happen. I think she gets it done. I'm not ultra confident, but that's the play I'm going to make.
There you have it, Manon Fiorot, maybe the rightful favorite in this spot against Valentina. Yeah, coming off that trilogy against Grasso, Valentina, very different stylistic matchup in this one. And honestly, I think the odds are fair. Gippers disagrees, though. What are you going with, Gippers?
I'm going with Valentina. Right, Warren, here's another aspect to look at. I went with the value play with her decision at a plus 215. She's now down to a plus 110 on the money line, but yet her decision prop is a plus 215, but yet Fiorot's decision prop is a plus 110. Try and make that make sense to me. And I just feel like it's definitely a value play for me, but I also feel like Valentina is also a lot smarter than Blanchfield is, and she's not going to be trying body lock takedowns. Her Valentina's takedowns are strictly going to be timing, either double leg or single leg, basically football tackles in the middle of the octagon, and I think she's able to get a couple of them. And if she gets a couple of those, then I also see Manon Fiorot fading just a little, just enough in the 4th and 5th round for Valentina to steal one of the last 2 rounds and secure the win.
It's going to come down to it. I absolutely see a 48-47. And you think of the championship rounds, 4 or 5, she could steal it, Gippers?
Yeah. But basically what I'm banking on is her being able to win one of the first 3 rounds. If she wins the first or the second round, I'm not going to say it's in the bag, but I'll like my odds a lot,
Right,
Then there's one other tricky way that you can bet this. If you are on the other side, and I know I know you're taking a big chance, but there is a sport book out there where you can still bet a future. And I will admit, I did sprinkle a little bit on Manon Fiorot to be the champ on December 31st. And I put a 25% boost on it and got it at a plus 225.
Nice. That's a great hedge, right? Because she's unlikely to fight again. If she did, it would be the Valentina rematch. They'd have to book that fast. I don't know if that's going to happen right away. Valentina's getting up there, so I don't know what she'll want to do if she loses either. So I like that hedge a lot. That's an interesting way to play it. For me, man, I'm going to have to split the difference. I'm going with Manon Fiorot. I think that she can foil Valentina's style, that rangy southpaw kickboxing. Gippers mentioned it. I mean, other than Amanda Nunes, like who has, and that chancy kind of upset loss to Alexa Grasso pulling off the choke, Valentina's beat everyone. But I feel that Manon Fiorot is perhaps the best striker that she'll have faced aside from Amanda Nunes, the bantamweight GOAT. I think that her kicks from range, her side kicks, can really help her control the distance here. And Gippers, thinks maybe the style of Blanchfield's takedowns weren't effective, but perhaps it's the way the body locks versus the single legs. But man, 93% takedown defense in the UFC. I've seen her defend it all different ways, and she's good in the clinch too. I really like her short knees and Muay Thai plum game. So I like Fiorot wherever this fight goes. I do think Valentina, as smart as she is, will find ways to win rounds. But ultimately, I think Fiorot edges it out. Again, a little bit of hometown bias, perhaps, wanting to see a new champion. Fiorot's got the goods, man, and she showed me she's got 5-round cardio, too, and some durability. She took a head kick from Blanchfield to end of round 5, I believe, wobbled a little bit, kept her composure, and showed me she's ready for the tough moments. So I like Manon Fiorot in this spot, but I can't believe to see Valentina Shevchenko as an underdog. And if she wins, Gippers, you can say, ha-ha, sportsbooks were foolish for making her a plus money play. All right, guys. It's time for the main event of the evening. We've been waiting to get here. Jack Della Maddalena challenging Belal, remember the name Muhammad, for the welterweight title. And let's start with you, Gippers. You're going with a parlay in this main event spot.
Yeah, I'm going with over 3.5 rounds and Belal on the money line, minus 117. Shop around for this because I've seen it, high as minus 130. But like I talked a little bit earlier, I really like this fight to go long in the first place. So I think Belal's going to be implementing a lot of his grappling, I don't think he's a dead fish on the feet either. I think his striking is actually it's not that bad, and it's good enough to make him be in this fight on the feet. He just can't get blasted too many times by JDM, which I think he might once, but once he does, I think he's going to be taking this to the mat. And I mean, we saw the success that Gilbert Burns had against JDM. Granted, now we're finding out that JDM more than likely had a broken arm or whatever it was, but I mean, Burns still ragdolled him, and I think Belal's got 5 rounds of cardio. I mean, I think he has way more cardio than JDM does, and I think he's going to be able to get takedowns on him and eke out either a 48-47 or a 49-46 decision here.
There you go. Scorecards from Gippers, too. You got the exact score. You think could be 4 rounds to 1 domination. All right, Josh, I'll go to you on this one because these are kind of the talking points, right? JDM, first 5-rounder. How will he do against grapplers who he's been tested against before versus, will Belal get cracked with his power boxing? How do you see it playing out?
Yeah, what, Danny, when it comes right down to this one, I just decided to not overthink it too much. Like, we know Belal Muhammad, for whatever it's worth, is extremely unpopular with the fan base due to a combination of his fighting style and I guess a personality a lot of people don't like. I think if you can get past that bias on any level, there's no doubt he's been one of the most profitable fighters you can imagine. Let's face it, the odds makers have underrated him as well. How many times has he come in? If you had faith in him, not only against Leon Edwards, but remember he was drawn about plus 190 against Stephen Thompson and walked right through him. He was a slight underdog against Sean Brady with the one knockout he's ever had. And so I'm done doubting him from a skill perspective. He is about to turn 37, so you wonder, okay, does the age cliff thing come into play at some point? But I feel like his style, the fact that he hasn't, exactly been in a ton of wars where he took a ton of beatings, can make for a little more career longevity there. But with Maddalena, I've got to say, for whatever reason, and I'm not sure why, but I haven't been. Obviously, he's impressive. He's got the great boxing game, and he's even shown an ability to get out of some bad situations against superior grapplers or whatnot. But I also feel like if you look at his record, man, that guy's also been dancing through the raindrops on his way up. I mean, let's face it, the Basso Hafez thing was short notice, but he got by. I thought could have gone the other way. Kevin Holland split decision, could have gone. And I will say it broke. I was pretty heavily invested in Gilbert Burns, who only needed to avoid being finished in the last 90 seconds to get that decision. And to his credit, JDM won. What a clutch performance when you not only have to win the round. I mean, you have to get the guy out of there to win the fight, and he did it. And then the dominoes fell for him to get this title shot. And Honestly, my only concern on the Muhammad side is that he keeps saying this week, like, yeah, I don't care. I'm going to beat him at his own game. I'm going to beat him at boxing. I really hope he doesn't do that. Like, I think there'd be some real danger there. When it comes right down to it, I believe Bilal will fight like he does to find a way to get a victory. I hope he's bluffing about the boxing because even though, as Gipper mentioned, he's an underrated, he can strike and he's not bad. He doesn't want to stand there to prove a point. But if he does his thing, mixes it up with the speed wrestling and the grappling and whatnot, I think he also just sort of, as he usually does, comes by with a far from impressive but convincing decision.
Yeah, like you mentioned, not too, perhaps not the most popular fighter, as some fans like to joke. Bilal, remember the decision, Muhammad, right? Not getting a lot of guys out of there. But like you said, he knows how to fight his fight. And Gippers brought up his improved striking. I agree. His hands have gotten a lot better. He's been training with a lot of those, I brought up Grasso's Mexican-style pressure boxing. Bilal has implemented the same thing, trains with similar coaches. And it's that threat of the takedown that makes your hands so much more lethal. When it's written all over your face, don't take me down, don't take me down, the hands open up and the boxing defense goes. And I think Bilal can use that. If he's going to play this game, hey, we're going to get into a boxing affair, just wait for the first moment where he has a chance to shoot. And then the boxing going to be opened way up for Bilal. So I don't want to underrate Maddalena, though. You brought up the Gilbert Burns fight. I was heavy on Burns as well, Josh, and I couldn't believe we lost that. I had him plus 3.5, too. So even if he lost the round, I was still good there. But unbelievable comeback from Maddalena with a broken arm, like Gippers alluded to. Guy's tough as nail, but Hafez testing him, Burns testing him. I think the style of Bilal's boxing plus wrestling can win out here. We'll see what he looks like in the championship rounds. Never been a full 5-rounder. So I think Bilal can use those X factors to get it done. The line's going the other way, guys. You can get Bilal minus 175. It was at minus 250. So some people respecting Jack Della, and of course, the way he mixes his punches to the head and body, maybe he can get him out of there, right, with maybe a liver shot. But I like Bilal, and I'll take him at this price tag with you guys. All three of us on Bilal. Remember the name Muhammad, who I refuse to underrate anymore. I've been guilty of that before as well. Okay, guys, before we get into our best bets and wrap this show up, you guys got to be in the SportsLine Discord. If you're not, you're missing out on a tremendous amount of value. I'm in there every single day talking about fights in the Combat channel, checking out what the other cappers have in their channels. And if you want to jump in, well, you got to be a SportsLine member. So be sure to check out that Discord if you are, discord.gg/SportsLine. Jump in there if you're a SportsLine member. If you're not, join for 60% off. That's a massive discount. All you got to do is use code WINNERS. That's code WINNERS for 60% off for your first year. You're getting access to every single analyst, their articles, their picks, the Discord, so much more. And it's the gift that keeps on giving because I absolutely love this brand. And I think truly this is a valuable offer. So take note of it, guys, if you want to jump on the train. Let's close the show out, guys, with the best bets. Thanks to everyone that's been watching in the comments. If you guys have any questions, we'll try to answer them maybe before the show ends. But Gippers, tell me what your favorite spot is on this entire card.
Well, my favorite spot is going to be a two-piece parlay. I'm going right back to the well of what I like to do and what I've made the most amount of money on, and that is alternate round prop overs. But this time I'm just keeping it simple and taking two fights to go the distance. I'm taking Bracatona fight to go the distance, and then the Valentina fight to go the distance also. And I mean, we've touched base on both of these fights. I mean, we both acknowledge that Bracatona is tough son of a bitch, and we keep on like underestimating him, even though I'm going against him this week. But he's tough, and he's another one of these ones that I've gone back to on my overs where he will fight for your money, and even if he's getting beat up in this fight, he's gonna keep on pushing forward and keep on fighting for your money. So I like that one to go to distance, and then Valentina. I mean, I think I'm not gonna say this is a layup for distance, but unless something freaky happens, which, I mean, it happened last week to me. So, I mean, it could happen again. I mean, I see this fight going to distance also. And, and that's one of the reasons why I have a tendency to do like these types of fights. And then on this one here, I wouldn't hedge. I wouldn't recommend it. But like last week, I hedged because anything can happen, and the guy got injured.
It's a cage fight. Anything could
Yeah,
happen.
it's a cage fight. I mean, I've lost 6 parlays this year off of injuries alone, and so that's why I have a tendency to do them this way. And but these are probably two of my favorite fights to go to the distance on the whole card.
Save for injury, Katona Almacan, Shevchenko Fiorot should go the whole way, says Gippers. Okay, favorite bet on this card for you, Josh?
Yeah, I'm just gonna keep this one simple, and it comes right down to it. I like the co-main, as we talked about. I believe Man and Fiorot. It's just, I think it's a coming of age deal. I think she's just sort of peaking at the right time. Valentina is just on the downhill slide just enough to get caught here, and I just think she gets her hand raised and becomes the champion.
There you have it. Simple enough. It's her time. And I agree with you. My favorite bet on this card, I told you I love Jasmine Jasdavicius, so I'm going to go to my spread spot. I like her -3.5. Essentially what that means, we need a 30-27 and 2 29-28s or better than that. If she finishes the fight, we don't need a spread. We win this easy. But I think she either gets Andrade out of there or ragdolls her on the ground for all 3 rounds and we get a unanimous 30-27, maybe even a 10-8 round in there if Andrade can last. Jasmine Jasdavicius by domination. Play it in every way you want. All right, guys, we did it. Final questions. Let's check the chat. Anyone have any last thoughts or insights in the chat? I'll look for you guys. Great show. Tons of insights, says Richard Pierre. Appreciate you being here. And we almost hit the showdown music for that Shevchenko-Fiorot fight, but perhaps not this time. Perhaps no showdown. Just some spirited debate here. But absolutely love everyone firing away their thoughts and comments for this UFC 315 card in the chat. And really, really grateful to have the insight of Josh Nagel and Gippers Picks for this card. Good luck if you're tailing any of the picks. We'll be back for every pay-per-view here on this Early Edge SportsLine channel, so stay tuned for more fight breakdowns from us. And best of luck if you're tailing. On behalf of Gippers, Josh, and myself, Danny Brasco, see you for the next one.